first of all, what is a E3 visa?
How to get a credit card, how to get a phone number, how to get a social security.
Rule number one, if you have an E3 visa, like all these obvious things, right? But
Yeah.
on a month-to-month basis, you'll get absolutely crushed in your score if you don't abide by these rules. Anyway, let's
I
go
don't
straight
think
into it. What sort of things we're talking about today?
we're going to do visas and moving country type admin. So credit cards, mobile phones, setting up general life in other countries other
Okay.
than Australia. Um, yeah, so I think you're going to talk pretty heavily on the visa side of it. So going to the US,
That's
the
right.
E3.
Yeah.
What was the other visa that you were going to talk about?
The E3B visa, which is it's really a permanent residency visa, which is actually open to anyone, not just Australians.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I think why don't we just start off by talking about the E3 visa because I'm assuming that a lot of our audience is going to be Australian pilots looking at applying for the various roles that are open to them in America right now.
Yeah.
So first of all, what is a E3 visa, right? You may have heard about it, and basically it's a visa open to Australians that started in May 2005 as one of the components of the US-Australia Free Trade Agreement. Now, this is back
Yeah.
when John Howard was in power, and he was obviously very good friends with George Bush. And
Yeah.
there's speculation as to why that was added as to one of the free trade agreement items. Some people say that it's because of our role in the Iraq War and basically like a loyalty trade-off whereby in exchange for sending troops over there, we've had a myriad of benefits that have come to our economy and closening of ties between Australia and the US
Yeah.
since that period back in '05.
And
Um,
so the E3
so
visa, that's not like who's that available to? Just Australians
the
or
E3 visa is available to anyone in Australia. Sorry, you need to be an Australian citizen, so Australian passport holders, um, and that will be available also to your dependents, so your children, your wife. Some people ask, I've seen in forums, people being worried that, oh, like I have a spouse who's not Australian, she might be European or from an Asian country, something like that.
yeah.
Are they entitled to come with me on my E3 visa? And the answer to that is yes, they can come with you. There's no
Yeah.
restrictions on spouses or dependents with their citizenships. It's about you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, things that are relevant to people who are going to be applying for the E3 visa. What's the validity? So it lasts 2 years and then you can renew it an unlimited number of times. And usually it's the first application, which is I'm not even going to say it's hard. I found it extremely simple. And depending on what company you apply for in America, a lot of the times they'll have a legal agency, a contracted company that'll do all the work for you. You
Yeah.
basically provide them the documents they ask for, and they do all the heavy lifting. You basically come with a file, give it to the embassy person,
Yeah.
and it basically stamped done. And then once you go for renewals years down the road, you don't even do that. It's just a mail in sort of thing.
Yeah.
So um, another common question with the visa is what are the education requirements? Some people are worried, oh, I don't have a bachelor's degree. Can I still apply for the visa? And really, it depends on your role as a pilot because there's such a shortage of pilots in the US right now. Basically, you can get the visa with a heartbeat. Um, it's yeah, it's. I mean, I went in with a diploma. I don't have a bachelor's, and I had no problems. But people have even gotten it without having a diploma.
Yeah.
So
I think it's pretty much
um,
one of those visas where it's a speciality and it's not just anyone can get it. It has to be a special trade or expert in industry. And
mhm.
depending on that industry and that person's qualifications, which is, as we know, pilots are like very niche and qualified, they literally say, "Yep, you're welcome in." And
Yeah,
get that visa, you have to jump through the hoops like everyone does, but it's probably pretty straightforward to get these days, I would say.
yeah, very straightforward. In fact, I would argue that probably one of the hardest things about getting the visa is just getting an embassy booking.
Yeah.
So to get this initial visa, You can't do it in America. It has to be done
Yeah.
outside of America at a US embassy. As you would know,
Yeah.
you've done this.
Yeah.
And depending on time of year, the state of the economy, how many people are looking at doing working holidays overseas in the States,
Yeah.
it could be a wait of anywhere from 2 weeks to over 6 months.
Yeah.
So,
It's crazy.
and a lot of that depends on what country you're going to. So we were lucky. Where did you do yours, sorry?
I did mine in Sydney.
Okay, Sydney. So
Yeah.
Sydney, I believe, had one of the longest waiting times of all of them.
Yeah.
Now we, because of our industry, we're entitled to a like an expeditious form. Basically, your
Yeah.
employer provides you, well, in this case, our employer's legal agency that was doing our visa for us, they had organized an expeditious thing where basically you shortcut the queue because of the shortage of pilots in the market
Yeah.
at that time. But yeah, without that, I mean, I've definitely heard of people waiting up to 6 months for an appointment
Yeah.
outside
I'm
of
pretty sure
the
mine
industry.
mine was 6 months until I submitted that letter, and then you just go back
Yeah,
online and they've opened all these slots available for you to book.
yeah,
And I had one like in 2 weeks' time, and so I literally flew to Sydney on the red eye, did my interview at 9 a.m., and then yeah, that was it. You welcome, they were like literally welcome and thanks for helping us, and we're like, damn, like
yeah,
that was so easy. I
yeah,
think the other hard thing about the whole thing was just getting all the paperwork sorted, and like you kind of
yeah.
take all your documents, your pilot's
I was
license, and your
super
log.
I was super surprised how easy it was. It shouldn't even be called an interview. It should just be
No,
like an appearance where you
yep,
provide paperwork and you walk out. But
yeah,
I will say that I have friends in tech who have gone through the
yeah,
same process with degrees and all sorts of specialized qualifications, and it has
yeah,
been an interview. Like it has been incredibly difficult to get the work visa over there. So that's the E3 visa. It's obviously preferred by employers because it's so simple and it has such a
yeah,
high success rate compared to residency visas like the
yeah,
E3B that I'll talk about in a moment.
yeah.
And it's also far cheaper.
Hold
A
on, how
good,
much? It was 185 US, wasn't it? That E3 visa when we applied.
I don't know, but it was nothing compared to what people pay for E3Bs.
Yeah, it's
Like
185,
like
I think, off the top of my head. And there were issues
yeah.
paying that. I know a lot of people had issues signing on to the US website because you have to like use your credit card or something like that and
Oh,
through that security
the website
process.
the website is absolute trash, and it's one of those
Yeah,
ones where like it probably takes what 25 minutes to go through the web to go through the form online,
yeah,
and you need to be flying through it because if you get to the 24th minute and you
yeah,
take too long, the web page times out and you have to start again.
yeah. And the
Horrible,
other big
horrible. It's the same in Hong Kong, mate. I was doing a Hong Kong visa app the other day for PR, and
yeah,
exact same thing happened. Spent like 20 minutes plugging in all the information. Who's your mum? Who's your dad? Where do they live? And it's like, why do you care? And then you get to
yeah,
the end of it, and it times out, and you have to start again. So there
that's
seems to
so
be a
easy.
theme with government websites.
They're just,
Let's have
yeah,
a chat about let's have a chat about E3Bs because I think it's a natural thing for anyone who's on a 2-year renewal visa to, if you like the country, you want to basically put roots down and have some sort of long-term security, right?
yeah,
And the only way you're
yeah,
going to get that is through a permanent work visa.
yeah,
Now that's where the EB3 visa comes in, and there's different classes of it. There's A, B, and C, and that depends
yeah,
on how specialized your job is. Basically, this visa is open to anyone. It's not just Australians. Yeah. So the reason why companies often won't go down this route, particularly at first, is because first of all, it takes a very long time.
yeah,
Typically, it's 6 to 9 months in processing time just for stage one. And there's three different stages
wow,
that you'll go through in getting this visa approved. Another thing is that it can become incredibly expensive with legal fees. Now, just in my homework alone, I'm getting estimates of somewhere in the realm of 10 grand and upwards US
yeah,
dollars. And basically, once you pass step one, which is submitting a whole bunch of paperwork, you go to step 2, which requires filing what's called an I-140 petition.
Yeah.
And that makes you an alien worker. And the processing for that stage is anywhere from a few months to a year. So you
Yeah.
can see we've just gone from 6 to 9 months for stage 1. We're going a few months to up to a year for stage 2. And then stage 3, which is the final approval, depends on what country you're coming from. And this is where the US immigration department's bias starts to come in. So you may have an applicant from Britain or Australia or Switzerland or Ireland, right? Applying for this visa, and they get to stage 3, and stage 3 takes a month. And then you have the same person who is applying from, let's just use South Africa as an example, and that last stage could take a year, right? So although, yes, like this is a visa that everyone should strive to sort of work towards at some point if they intend to stay in America, it takes a damn long time, costs a lot of money, and you're not always going to be successful, right?
One of the guys at A, he was applying for that because he wasn't Australian. So he told me it was going to be about 20 grand, and lawyers couldn't tell him for certain he was going to get it. So he hasn't pursued that because it's a lot of money, right? To not have a guarantee. So yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. So it's funny, like think about this from a cost perspective for an airline as well. Let's say you've got just 300 pilots, which is very conservative, just spending 10 grand a head on minimum costs for legal fees to get all those pilots an EB3 visa. You're talking about $3 million, right?
Crazy.
Or you could spend a couple $100 on the application fee for a renewal of an E3 visa.
Yeah. So can you switch though? If you've got the E3,
yes, you can. Yes, you can.
You can.
You can.
And so would that be a process that maybe once you get into the States, you're working for a company, then you start lodging all this paperwork eventually?
I mean, I suppose so. Like if you, just my opinion only is that, I mean, if you intend to stay in the country and, one of the reasons you should try and stay in the country is because you're building a 401k there, you might be buying real estate there because if your like 3 to 5 year plan is to stay in America, you should probably be buying real estate over there. And I would suggest that having a permanent residency status would be essential to setting up life there with assets and whatnot.
You can still buy property on the E3, I believe.
Yeah, you can. You don't have to be American at all to buy property. Yeah, you can buy it.
I think that's the good thing about America compared to Hong Kong was like, even if you're not a permanent resident, you can still invest and like establish yourself. It's just obviously the risk with any visa is what happens if they stop the visa or you get booted or, you lost your pilot job. Then what happens?
Yeah.
Like if we lost employment, our E3 is pretty much, it's not valid anymore, right?
Well, this happened to us in Hong Kong, remember? So
yeah,
just for context, for people watching, we were in Hong Kong. A standard visa renewal was 2 years. Sometimes people got 3, but it was totally like that. They didn't tell you why some people got 2 years or 3 years. It was just the wizard behind the curtain is just like 2 years, 3 years for you, right? You just have no fucking idea. And anyway, some guys, of course, started to expire during COVID, and
that was me.
Not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but a certain airline which had a lot of local pilots in it lobbied against renewing the visas of expat pilots because they said, well, we've just lost our jobs. Why should these foreigners have right of way for pilot work in our country? Which I'm not saying is right or wrong. I'd be up in arms if I was in Australia and Aussies are getting furloughed, meanwhile they're renewing British or US pilot visas. But that's just what happened. And there was a myriad of people, you're one of them, a bunch of mates who were illegal aliens in Hong Kong during COVID because the government was just in this, well, it's not that they were declining people visas, it's just they weren't replying. They were just letting people remain illegally. And when that happens, you don't have the right to work, right? So guys are getting pulled off their rosters.
Yeah, literally. And the company wasn't doing anything right. It wasn't the company's issue. It was a government issue, but the company had nothing to do with it. And Like
I
for
was
instance,
just,
I can talk about my experience because it happened and I don't work there anymore. But after what, 6 years, they were issuing me with a 6 month visa. There were guys who had just joined a year before COVID who now had 3 year visas, and it's like, hold on, am
yeah.
I going to lose my job after someone who's just joined is going to keep their visa? And yeah, that's a risk you take for
It's
getting a visa anywhere.
exactly, and this all ties in with the E3 visa. Don't be disillusioned. If you are on, and this is me too, if you are on a 2 year visa that requires renewal with a letter of referral from your company every 2 years, you are carrying some sort of risk. If something
Yeah,
happened, a global catastrophe of some sort, and they needed to reduce the company's headcount by 20%, a really easy way of doing that would be to just say, oh, sorry, immigration department's not letting us renew these right now.
yeah.
There's no longer a shortage of your type of skilled labor anymore. We're so sorry. So I'm not saying
But
that's going to
that's
happen, but
yeah,
that's possible, right? And that's why I think it's worth at least doing a bit of homework into the EB3, right?
yeah. Or the green
If you
card,
intend to
you
stay
could
in
get a
America,
green card
or the
or
green
get a
card.
wife
And this is
or a husband.
everybody who is moving to America should be applying for that green card every fucking year. There's
Yeah,
no reason why you shouldn't. It's free. Everyone should do it. You
yeah,
don't know what you're going to want. It's such a long process. You apply this year for next year, and it's
yeah,
like I want to say it's like an 18-month waiting, applying process. It's free. Anyone can do it. But you don't know what you're going to want to do in 18 months' time. Why not just give yourself the options?
the opportunity. Yeah, because you can say no
Yeah.
to it as well, right? You don't have to
Of
actually
course you can.
process
No, they
it.
don't. They don't fly to Australia and handcuff you and say, "Get over
No,
there. You're an
yeah,
American
yeah,
now."
yeah. Pay your taxes. Like,
Yeah, we want your
I haven't
money.
applied for the green card. I looked at it. Did you apply for the next year or this year?
So this is a funny story. I applied and I applied on multiple different devices, multiple laptops, iPhone, iPad, and every time I did it, after like step three, I got blocked by an FBI like portal page. It was like
What?
access denied FBI, and I was like, "Have I done something?"
Yeah, it's probably your phone, bro.
So,
You probably got some suspicious stuff on there.
yeah,
Yeah,
probably.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I had previous knowledge and experience to apply for a green card earlier in my career, but I honestly didn't think I'd ever
Mate,
go to the States because you
dude,
just never know,
I
right?
everyone should be applying from age 18, I think. And
Yeah.
if you because usually it takes multiple applications to get one.
Yeah.
Like some people, I mean, I know a guy who got it first application, but I want to say out of like the maybe 5 or 6 people I know who have gotten it, on average it's taken like 5 to 7 years of applying.
I heard
And
one in
that's
20, no, 1 in 4 get it as an Aussie because they quota it for like your citizenship, where you're
that's
from,
right,
right?
yeah.
Like there's more chance if you're an
Again,
Aussie than a South African,
again,
which is
again,
weird.
it's like the bias of step three in the EB3 visa. Right? You
Yeah.
go through all this bullshit, and then
Welcome
they
to
say, "Oh,
America.
that's all wonderful. What country are you coming from?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And I
America,
think,
baby,
and I
land of
think,
the free.
well, they're free, baby. But yeah, I
Land
think
of the
being
free.
Australian is pretty favorable.
Yeah.
Um,
And especially if you want to go on
so
to legacy.
100%, which
Yeah.
everyone should, right? Like
100%.
why? So that's visas, bro.
Yeah.
Let's move on to uh phase two and have a chat
Living.
about life admin moving to the
Life.
States.
Yeah, sounds good. I think obviously anyone moving country, it's always going to be difficult and there's lots of unknowns. There's so much information online as well, but it's never as easy as, typing on Google how to get a credit card, how to get a phone number, how to get a social security. We've both done it. We've experienced the waits and delays. So, for instance, I personally think, well, first of all, let's start when you get to America. You're going to line up for 2 hours in an immigration queue, most likely, if not an hour after your 15-hour flight, or
Good
well,
welcome to the
even an hour
country.
from. Yeah, welcome to the country where there's going to be
Yeah.
no communication, no phones are allowed to use. The immigration officers are quite, I don't know, just rude, maybe as well. It's not like welcome to America. It's just
I got,
what are you doing here?
dude,
What's your name?
dude, last roster I got asked what my he said, what do you identify as the first
No,
question.
man. Yeah.
And I was
And what
like,
did you
uh,
say?
I said a guy. I don't know.
Yeah. A rainbow? I don't know.
I'm a,
Like,
I don't
well,
know.
the last time
A
I went
fucking
through,
an eastern suburbs housewife.
yeah, literally. The last time I went through, the guy was talking to his wife on video and still trying to stamp people through. And half the time the other people lining up can't speak English. And so, he's getting they're all
Yeah,
Spanish speaking, obviously. And then
yeah,
I get through, he's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" I'm like, I'm on an E3 visa, I work as a pilot. Okay, thanks, see ya. And that
what's
was
that?
it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
Who
Like,
do you
see you
fly
later.
for? Who are they?
Yeah,
Who are they?
yeah. And they don't know
Yeah.
anyway. But the
And
big
then you answer by saying, "Have you ever bought anything on Amazon?"
yeah, Amazon baby. You buy it, I fly it.
I work for
Um,
Jess.
so the big thing from that though is when you get through, you got to get your I-94 stamped, right? Or like accepted
Yes,
to
yes,
come into the country as an E3.
yes.
I'm not sure if you have experience you can talk about, obviously coming into a
Oh
country on
fuck
a
yeah, I've
valid
got a story
visa.
for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let it rip. Let the people know.
Let it rip. All right. Fucking hell, man. So, rule number one, if you have an E3 visa and you are coming to America, make sure that the immigration officer scans the E3 visa, not your fancy crew visa from your last airline, not your fucking ESTA. Scan the E3 because if you do not enter the country on that E3 visa, you will not be able to get an I-94 document, which is what you require to get a social security number. Have I done this? Yes. Do I know other people who did this? Yes. Where we came in, we just gave our passport to the officer, thinking, oh, like I'm moving to America, and you just assume that he's going to scan the correct one. No, 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 no. Don't assume anything. So I've gone to get an I-94, can't get one, and I'm panicking, right? Because I start work at a new airline like in 2 days' time, and I don't have a social security number, so I can't be paid. They don't want you on site if you can't be paid. So I'm trying to figure out. I ended up calling immigration at Miami Airport saying, "Hey, can I just come to the airport and you guys rescan the correct visa?" Of course, this would make too much sense and be too simple. So they say, absolutely fucking not. You can either exit the country by aircraft, like by flight somewhere, or you can drive over the border at Canada. I'm in Miami.
Yeah,
So I'm like, well, holy shit, what are the options? And luckily, I still had staff travel with my previous carrier. So I ended up getting a flight to the Bahamas, which,
yeah.
FYI, the airport tax to fly to Bahamas is more than what I pay to fly from Sydney to LA staff travel. It's absurd.
Wow.
I think it was like
Yeah,
150 US just to land to Bahamas.
yeah,
And then literally I just walked through immigration. I said, hey man, this looks really dodgy, but I'm going to be coming straight back out. I just needed you guys to stamp the right bloody visa.
yeah,
He's like, okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And then,
yeah,
yep, few hours later, I was back in America with the correct visa
yeah.
scanned,
Scan.
right? So
Yeah,
don't make that mistake. Enter on the correct visa. Otherwise, you will suffer the consequences later on.
yeah. And so to get the I-94 from my previous experience, I'm pretty sure you just go online, type in I-94, fill in your passport, your name, details, and then you literally can save it and then print it.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
definitely print it.
yeah,
I don't know if you made that error, but I know people who have, where in a digital age, they assumed they could take a digital fucking document to like the DMV, what was it, like the Social Security
yeah. Social Security
building.
Office.
But no, they want paper and they simply just they just don't care if you bring the
Yeah,
incorrect documents, they'll just turn you away, and then you'll have to make another booking online, probably in days' time, and start the process again. So
yeah.
yeah, bring your physical
So
I-94 document.
yeah, that goes on to the Social Security. That's a process in itself as well because that's get an appointment or either walk in. I walked in. You've got to have all your documents in on your hand there. So you want your
Hmm.
passport, the passport that has your E3 visa on it, your I-94 printed, and then maybe the flights in and out on from there. You also
I didn't
want
have that,
probably
but
a
yeah.
letter of employment or address letter.
Yeah.
So
It says on the website what you need to bring, but
yeah, the more
yeah,
merrier.
I'm fairly certain the most critical thing is having a passport which has your E3 visa in it, as well as your I-94 document.
Yeah.
And
I
then yeah, a
use
few days later you get your little paper card that has your social security
yeah,
on it.
yeah. And that thing's
Yeah.
a bit of a joke as well, that little paper card. Like, it doesn't
Ah, yeah,
really
you
mean much.
just take a photo of it and
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully no one
And
ever
then
steals it.
yeah, well, take your ID, right? And I think you actually have that on your FAA license, or they used to put it on there or something like that. So either way, it's a form of ID that you can use in America, the Social Security, and it's important to get because it also leads you down to get your bank account, which you need to get paid.
Yeah.
So, like
Yeah.
most people, like yourself, like myself, the first couple of weeks moving to the States, it's all admin. It's like trying to get all these little things ticked off, and they kind of all feed off each other. So, get a mailbox or use the hotel. We were lucky enough, we used the hotel that we were staying at. Some hotels can't be used. Um, but yeah, so Social Security, that's pretty quick. Walk in, so expect to take probably half a day for that. And then they mail it to you. Once you've got that, you can go get your bank account because you need your Social Security and proof of ID. So passport, visa, probably a letter of employment as well for certain banks. And
Yep.
then also residential proof of residence is the big one for the banks. And some won't take a mailbox.
Nope.
Others, they used the hotel we were staying at, I'm pretty sure. But some hotels won't let you, or some banks will pick that up. And they always say, "Oh, is this where you live?" And you just say, "Yes." Yeah, that's
Yes,
where I
man.
live. That's the
Yes,
apartment.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Never, if they say, "Is this a hotel?" You say, "No, not that I'm aware of. It's a full apartment." Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and then tick that box, and then your bank account will get frozen when they do find out it is a hotel, which
Yeah, they actually do.
and me.
They literally they say update it to a real
Yeah,
address, otherwise, like we're just gonna close your accounts. That was
yeah.
Citibank, right?
That was City. So literally, here's a
Yeah.
story. I was talking to my partner. I was like, I'm gonna get you a present for like, just because I love you so much. So we go into Lululemon,
Such a good
go
boyfriend.
and yeah, go buy like some expensive pants, sweatpants or something. What happens?
Yeah.
Card declined. I'm like, what? Can I try again? Like, try again. Declined. So either way, I didn't get her the pants. She got the pants.
That's the thought
Um,
that counts,
yeah,
though.
yeah, it's the thought that counts. Call Citibank. Oh, we've frozen your account because it's going to, I think it's the mailbox that we were using, right? I'm
Yeah,
not sure
yeah,
if
yeah.
that was legal or not. So yeah, please like unfreeze my bank
Yeah,
account. I'll
actually,
new
Citibank
address.
sent Citibank sent me the same letters, so I just closed my accounts and said, "Fuck you, I'll use these other
Yeah.
credit cards. It's fine."
I still need to close my Citibank because, and this comes from experience as well. I think Capital One is way better to go with in the
No,
States. It's just way
that's who I was
easier.
about to plug next. Is Capital
Yeah.
One. It's just super
Yeah.
easy to start up. It's a digital bank, and
Yeah.
no, they don't. There's not explicit Capital One ATMs everywhere, but you get access to all the ATMs at CVS's and a bunch of other like multi like conglomerates that are all over the place,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
don't need Citibank ATMs, right?
No. Citibank sucks.
Another
Let's be
one,
honest. They're not
it's
everywhere.
terrible. It's the worst
Yeah.
banking experience I've ever had.
Yeah. In Hong Kong
I
and in America and Australia,
yeah,
actually. I've had it in Australia as well.
and I've dealt with HSBC and they are worse. So
Are they?
oh fuck yeah, way worse. But
Yeah.
the other company I was going to plug is if you need a credit card, quick and easy, and you have a social security number, is the Discover credit card. And
Yeah.
this kind of goes down another rabbit hole and it's just related to coming to the US without a credit rating. Now,
Yeah.
you could have a 5-star credit rating in any country. In Australia, you could have mortgages, whatever, perfect credit. the day you come to America, they don't know you, right? You have a credit score of like effectively zero.
Yeah,
And because of that, you can't apply for shit. You can't get credit cards, nothing. The way to build that is by typically going down the student credit card pathway, whereby
yeah,
through these Capital One or Discover online digital banks, you
yeah,
can load up like prepay credit cards for $1,000 or $2,000. And after doing that for about 3 months, you'll build enough credit rating to get a normal credit card.
yeah,
So yeah, a really, really important thing to do in that sequence of events you were just talking about. Come in on the right visa, get your I-94, get your social security, open up a bank account.
yeah,
The next step should be get a credit card ASAP so that you can start building credit rating. And there's
yeah,
all sorts of little tips and tricks that you can do to build your credit rating faster,
yeah,
such as you need to be using the credit card, but not using it too much. And you need
yeah,
to make sure that you're not missing any payment, like all these obvious things, right? But
yeah,
on a month-to-month basis, you'll get absolutely crushed in your score if you don't abide by these rules. So it's very
yeah,
important that you do your homework and understand how credit ratings work because
yeah,
you might want a mortgage, right?
yeah. Yeah, you might want a rental, right? A lot of the rentals in the US say they want like 750 on the credit rating, and that's why
750 is
initially
high, man. 750 is really high.
750 is hard. I only ever got to 640, and now it's going down because I don't
Yeah,
use it. So,
exactly.
like you said, I feel like that's a whole nother chat. But Capital One
Yeah,
was really good. I got a $2,000 credit card off them off online. Citibank
yeah.
gave me $500 secured, so I had to give them the $500, and then that took 2 months. And that's the other thing is like you don't have social security, you have to have lived in the States for 3 months. And there I was at like 2.5 months trying to get a credit card to build a rating to get a rental, and
hmm
it was just a nightmare. And then Capital One online, applied, got it, got a credit card the next day, all
Yeah.
online. I got it sent to like a friend's place.
Oh, and mate, how many
Sent,
free coffees did you extract out of that company as well?
oh man, I love Capital One because you get price coffees and they're actually good. So
Wow. Oh shit.
everywhere. And all the students go there, man. Everyone goes there. Like, and the people are
Yeah,
just
yeah,
nice. Apart from the fact that they're not like a full bank, so it's all
yeah,
online. There'll be a couple of people there that can try and help you, but generally they
yeah,
can't do a lot of the things you would want at a bank, right? So,
yeah.
but I don't know. I think that's, you got your credit card. You can get your phone pretty straightforward. That's online. Generally, I went with Mint.
That's what I
Um,
went with.
yeah, that's all online. Just put in an address. You get your eSIM.
Yeah.
I went eSIM.
A caveat that I was going to say to do with Mint is that yes, it's 5G and it's quite cheap. It doesn't work in Anchorage. So
Oh, okay.
if you're thinking about taking a cargo role, you're going to be spending a lot of time in Anchorage and
Yeah,
you're not going to have any internet, which you
yeah,
might like. I mean, I kind of enjoy it. I don't use roaming or anything on my Aussie SIM card when I'm in Anchorage. I just go offline and I quite
yeah,
enjoy it. Embrace nature,
yeah.
baby.
In Anchorage, yeah, living the dream.
Yeah.
Everyone was going Google Fi. The Google Fi is not that good in Anchorage either, is it?
So Google Fi just got massively upgraded. They didn't have 5G for iPhones because they were trying to basically give an inferior product to anyone that was using iPhones to incentivize people to come over to Android.
Yeah,
But I think they were getting very, very low, like onboarding numbers. So they actually
yeah,
opened up 5G to iPhones probably like 2 months ago. And I've never heard
yeah,
anything poor about a Google Fi. Like it just works everywhere. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's a complete product. Like it just works.
yeah. If you
Yeah,
get 4 people on the plan, it's pretty cheap, right? Because you could get more people on the plan. It turned out to be pretty cheap, but you know how everyone is like new company, we don't know where we're living, we don't know what we're doing. Other people, everyone's got their own things going on. So I think it's about
exactly.
$70 a month, was it? Like just by yourself.
Uh, it might even be less. Might have been like 60
Less.
or something like
Yeah.
that, but 60
Yeah, it might be
US.
60. But like Mint was
Yeah.
20. 6 months, I think I paid for 40 gig or something like that. So
Yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
pretty much everything you need though, right? Like number, credit, banking,
Yep.
social security is the big one. Health insurance, like I think that's just a can of worms. We're not financial advisors or anything,
I
but
still don't.
companies
I
pay
still
for
have
it.
no idea. I'm paying
You
for
have
one.
none.
I don't know how. I no. I'm paying for one. I have no idea how to use it, but I
Yeah,
have health insurance in America.
yeah. You have the HSA set up with
HSA, the
Atlas.
health
Yeah,
savings account, where it's
yeah,
basically a shared liability between you and your employer. The
yeah,
employer every month throws in a few $100s, and eventually that builds into a substantial account that you can draw from if you have any serious excess um, bills.
yeah. Because the
Yeah.
HSA as well, you can invest. So I think once you get to 2 grand, you can actually actively put the money in funds.
Yeah, you can.
And
Yeah,
that's what people like about it.
there's all sorts of interesting little investment things that you can do with the HSAs. But honestly, like I need to do more homework on it because it's a
Yeah.
complicated topic.
I just
Yeah,
got health insurance in Oz and I'm like, damn, it's like been living the dream, not really paying for health insurance until you live in Australia where you get the 2% surcharge. So now
yeah.
I have, health insurance here and it's
Who have
expensive,
you gone
like
with in Australia?
Medibank. Yeah.
Anyway,
So
okay,
I just felt they ticked all the boxes with what I wanted and, it's not
yeah,
cheap, but you need it, right? It's literally a tax write-off. It's like they are liable to pay for any hospital covers after 2 month waiting period. And if I
yeah,
don't have it, then I would just pay $1,500 in tax extra a year or something like that. So I was like, I just pay it.
yeah.
Like,
I think we can wrap up that on basically life admin, visas, things like that. I was thinking we could have a chat about some sort of like breaking events that have been happening this week in aviation in Australia
yeah,
and around the world. And most importantly, I'll throw this up in the edit, but uh, there's supposedly some leaked information that FedEx is currently overstaffed, according to them, by 700 to 800 pilots.
yeah,
And the reason I guess this is significant is the only narrative in aviation for the last probably 2 years is we need more pilots, we need more pilots. And this is probably the first major airline that has started to say, hey, we've probably got too many. Now, for
yeah,
context, FedEx has got over 5,000 pilots. So,
yeah.
they'd be talking
Well,
about reducing headcount by, I don't know, 15% or something like that. You can read into this all you like. Eventually, the
yeah,
industry is going to capitulate. And
yeah,
typically, these major airlines, such as, United, Delta, American, um, these huge behemoth airlines, they tend to overhire religiously. It just seems to
yeah,
be in their nature during market cycles to hire like there's no tomorrow. Some of these companies are hiring 300 to 400 pilots a month right now. I think that's
yeah,
Delta and United.
yeah,
And the consequence of that is that when things start to turn, God forbid, hopefully you're not at the bottom of that hiring cycle because they tend to furlough as well. So perhaps that's something for people to think about, when you are applying for a company is, geez, how fast are they expanding? How secure is it? What's the longevity of this job? In the
yeah,
sense that if they've been hiring 300 pilots a month for the last 18 months, 2 years,
yeah,
perhaps it's worth looking at companies that have job security and don't have as much
yeah,
risk of being furloughed.
yeah, 100%. But I think that's the first time we've seen that contraction, considering it was always going to come, but I thought maybe it has a couple more years, but also as freight seen its like peak, right, during COVID, where freight prices were 3x. That's all
Yeah.
slowed down now, right? The supply chain's probably still restricted, but maybe it's just not demanding the same prices it was getting. So airlines won't be expanding. They're
Well,
probably
now,
specifically FedEx, weren't they even chartering out to Atlas, right? They were like giving
yeah,
work to
I mean,
Atlas.
they still are. And it's not a huge amount of work. And I think the union at FedEx has a TA with the company whereby any work that gets offloaded to contractors such as Atlas, there's a kickback to the pilots. And what that does is it creates a disincentive to prevent the company from abusing all of their work and just outsourcing it to
Yeah,
cheaper contractors.
labor. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I will also add that yes, like it may be concerning that they may be, in this case, FedEx might be furloughing pilots, but they're also negotiating a tentative agreement, right?
Yeah.
And when you're an airline and you're negotiating with your pilots the next 5-year contract, you don't you don't come out screaming, "Oh my God, we need so many pilots," right? Because
Yeah.
that gives so much leverage to the union, right? Because it just becomes
Yeah.
obvious that you need us more than we need you. So perhaps you could read this and take it with a grain of salt that perhaps they're just fronting this to make it appear like,
Yeah.
oh, we actually don't need pilots right now. In fact, we're probably overhired,
Yeah.
and we actually don't have as much demand for you guys as what you may think, and that would
Yeah.
give them leverage in negotiations. So perhaps it is meaningless news.
And well, that definitely puts people on the back foot, especially those guys at the bottom when negotiations do happen, and we know
Exactly.
companies are all about the fear and intimidation, and us
Yeah,
as pilots
exactly.
really have the ability, all the data to understand that, like, hey, do we just stick it out together, or shit, I'm just going to vote in 10% instead of 20% rise, or the companies always do this type of stuff,
Well,
right?
yeah,
So
you as a pilot are incentivized to get any deal over the line that keeps you flying,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whereas you may have a conflict of interest with those who are at the top of the seniority ladder who just want as much money as possible because they
Yeah.
know that, oh,
They're
they
not
could
gonna
fire
lose.
1,000 people and it ain't going to touch me,
Yeah, and they're still getting like the
right?
top dollar, right?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
yeah, the whole seniority thing is kind of flawed in that aspect of it. I think that's why you look, when we joined Cathay, all the senior guys were like, "No ways will we vote," for that EBA that was coming through when we joined. And so everyone voted
Yeah,
no. Well, everyone, it was like 56. What was
yeah.
it? It was like 50
I
50.
hate to, I'd hate to know what the actual impact of everyone voting no to that deal back in 2016 had on the future of the airline. Because
I think it would have done nothing.
we never stopped fighting with the company.
No.
That turned into like a 7-year battle where no one
Yeah.
was happy,
No one
right?
won. Yeah.
And whether or not you believe them, the company at Cathay argued that the reason why you are a second officer at year 7 is because you guys turned down the deal.
Yeah.
Oh, you would have had your first officer at 2.5 years if you had have gotten rid of the what was it, the training ban, basically.
Yeah. Hey, you know what?
Right.
I never even thought about it, but we probably could have actually, that it was the training ban, but it was
Yeah.
also, we
And
probably lost out.
explain to viewers what the training ban was.
Well, it was pretty much no one could volunteer to become a captain or a training captain or go into any
Yeah.
training role with the
Right.
airline.
Yeah.
So apparently they were limited on training captains, right? And
Yeah.
then whoever put their hand up for training became a scab. So
Exactly.
did that affect
Exactly.
us
So it
getting upgrades? Probably. Did we lose out on about 30,000 Aussie? Yes. Like, do you know what I mean?
at
Like,
least. Yeah.
at least. Oh, it was
Yeah.
about, what was it, 2 grand Aussie a month extra we're probably going to get. Like, our housing was going to go up, the housing allowance. So, but I think what I took from that was you're never going to win unless you take something.
No. Better to
So,
have something than nothing, I think is the
exactly.
lesson from that ordeal.
In the end of the day, we all got different contracts that were much less. So we probably should have just taken the benefits for 4 years if we had hindsight, but we didn't. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, COVID threw a spanner in the works for all the Asian
yeah.
carriers, Middle Eastern carriers, everything. Which
COVID's
is
done
an
a really interesting thing for everyone because it's changed everyone's going through EBA negotiations at the moment, pretty much, right? Apart from Qantas just implemented one without any negotiations, right? That was the SO. Rex just got their
B-scale
EBA.
SA.
Virgin's going through EBA. Jetstar approved their EBA last year. So COVID has, pilots got their careers flipped upside down, no pay, different careers. And here we are now all coming out the end where everyone's paying high ticket prices, everyone's flying, the economy is apparently,
Yeah,
doing really
it's very
well.
difficult. It's very difficult to hide on an income statement at a publicly traded company that you're producing the highest profits the company's ever produced ever.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
difficult to brush to the side when you're coming up to tentative agreements, contract
definitely.
renegotiations. So it is going
Yeah,
to be very interesting as all these companies, particularly in Australia, go through negotiations again. It'd be disappointing if, after all of the sacrifices that crew made during COVID to keep these companies buoyant,
yeah,
to see no reimbursement or improvements in exchange for that. It
yeah,
won't come free or easy. It's going to be a grind. Negotiating always is.
yeah,
But I really hope that for those who are working in Australia, that they get there's just some fairness involved in the next agreements.
yeah. Hopefully.
I
Oh,
want to talk
yeah.
about Virgin. Some really positive news from them. You said they're going through TAs shortly.
Yeah.
Um, I want to talk about the growth of that company, and what it
Okay.
means for aviation in Australia. When the company relaunched in 2020, they had 58 jets.
Yeah.
They've been steadily growing. They're now 84.
Yeah.
And they're on track to have 33 additional jets delivered over the next 5 years. What does
Wow.
that mean for staffing numbers over the next 5 years?
Yeah.
If we just look at the fleet size 2.5 years ago compared to where it needs to be in 2028, it needs to double.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of crew who were furloughed, they've gone to America, they've gone and done
Yeah.
other things on the side. And I believe that they have like a 7 year recall period. Is that right?
2025 is the date. I don't know
2025.
the
Okay.
actual month. It's 2025 is they have to have come back or it means nothing anymore. They
Yeah,
go
and
to the bottom of the seniority.
I think they also get two opportunities. So basically, if the company offers you once, you can decline it and say, ask me again in the future. After
Yeah.
they offer you a second one, I'm not sure what the interval requirements are between those two offers. If you decline the second time, your slot is gone.
Yeah.
But it is extremely positive, I think, to see growth in the market. You've got Bonza.
Yeah.
Uh, they are now flying, I'm pretty sure. What do you know about Bonza?
Yeah. Well, I don't know much about Bonza apart from they do all these like different routes and they're obviously a budget-based airline. I can tell you more on Monday when I have a chat with someone in HR. But the one thing I
What
saw
are they
recently,
flying? Are they 320s?
no, they're seven threes, and they're
Okay.
all purple looking. And I saw one of the pilots the other day, and I was like, "Is that a uniform or is it just like?" I didn't know what it was, but yeah,
It's
I
like
didn't know it
have you
like
seen the
that.
Breeze uniform in the US?
No, no.
Dude, they look
What's
like
that?
they look like bush pilots. They got like blue shirts and I don't
That's
know. I'm
cool.
not sure if they wear it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if they wear a tie. There's a few carriers
yeah.
over in the States where they basically just wear polos.
But that's cool. Like, let's do that,
I got
man. That's
nothing against it.
comfortable.
I got
You
nothing
always
against
get
it. I
dirty
think
anyway. Like the 7.3's got crap on it. Like there's all rubber everywhere and oil and like let's just
yeah.
be full on GA junkies. Like live the dream.
Dude, I don't really think it matters what the uniform is. I just think people need to wear the uniform. It does kind of grind my
Yeah,
gears when there's an allocated uniform and people just wear fucking mufti or like mix match. It just
yeah,
looks shit. It makes you look
yeah,
unprofessional. It makes the company look like shit.
yeah,
So, man, if it's a polo, fucking rock it.
yeah.
Represent it.
What about hats? Because has Qantas got rid of the hat? No, they've got the hat.
No, no. Qantas is never getting rid of hats, mate.
Not, but is it Virgin? No, Virgin's got hat. Someone's got rid of hats in Oz recently, and I was like, "What? You don't have to have the hat." No, okay,
Really?
maybe that's
Well,
just
Cathay. Remember, Cathay got rid of them. They tried to recall them.
yeah, yeah. Cathay wanted the hats
Oh,
back.
mine's
That's my
about five
busking
meters
hat,
that way.
man.
I ain't giving that to anyone.
Yeah, that's my busking hat. That's all the change.
Yeah.
That's where all the money goes, man. It's trying to busk from Cathay. But literally, the other thing, just to come back to Bonzo, I heard they were cutting routes, so that's never good, right? But it's also the end of school holidays now, so like,
I, as much as I encourage risk taking, um, joining a company that has like 10 or less jets
Yeah,
in an extremely competitive environment in Australia where those two companies, Qantas and Virgin, are more than willing to loss lead in order to push any new entrants out of the market. I think is
yeah,
an extremely ballsy move. And I think if you need work and you need a job in Australia, apply for everything. But
yeah,
uh, you are taking a significant risk joining a startup airline.
yeah,
Like airline, already high risk. Startup, like
yeah,
10x the risk.
yeah. Maybe
So
10x the reward though, right? Like potential command,
maybe,
quickly.
maybe,
Yeah,
maybe. But all you have to do is look at history of aviation in this country, and you'll see like a basically a graveyard of airlines.
yeah,
And the two companies that remain are so entrenched, and they have I think they have such a foothold in politics and loyalty that it's unique to a country like America, where it's far, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to start up because there's so much more like secondary services, like airport
yeah,
services that you don't have to establish yourself. Like you can start.
yeah,
This is basically how Breeze started, right? Very, very low startup costs because all you need is jets and staff. You don't have to set up a home base. You don't
yeah,
have to have your own ground staff at airports. You can
yeah.
outsource all of that.
But that's
Like
what Oz is now,
ticket
right?
agents, the ticket agents are just contractors
Yeah,
who they provide services to a dozen different companies, right?
yeah, yeah. That's
So
like Oz. I
yeah,
forget the company, but like who is it? A lot of the ticketing agents all work for one contractor and they change uniforms, like different shifts, or you know, they might
yeah,
even have a split
yeah, that's
split
right.
shift. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'll
If you
try
go
and
to
figure
Sydney
that one out.
International at 10 a.m., you're going to see all sorts of ticket agents who don't work for any specific airline. They just change
Yeah.
shirts.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah,
probably
but
why
that's
they're
just the nature of the
always
business these days.
confused. Yeah, all the different codes and
Where
all
are you going?
the yeah, yeah, checking people when they're on the flight.
It's a hard
And
job, dude.
yeah, I can
It's an
imagine.
incredibly hard job. I used to be a fucking ticket agent at Sharp at Adelaide Airport.
No ways.
I
No.
earned my stripes, baby. I swear to God. Yeah.
No. Well, I was a baggage
I
handler.
don't want to talk about how many bags I sent to the wrong airports. But
Serious?
yeah, I've yeah, dude.
You're a, I thought you were a smart cookie, you could at least pack bags properly.
No, not smart, just a great jawline.
Yeah. Just got a 10 out of 10 jawline. Um, I sent someone had their golf clubs. They were going to Mauritius, and I didn't get their golf clubs onto the Mauritius flight out of Perth in time. So yeah, I got a call up from the manager on that day, and you know, I just left the golf clubs at the baggage bay where I was meant to leave them. But yeah, someone was on their honeymoon and they weren't playing golf in Mauritius. So I
No, they
apologize
weren't.
to that couple. Yeah,
Someone's fucking
that was about
honeymoon too.
10 years ago. So yeah.
Uh, I bet that guy's still
Um,
cursing you.
No, yeah, maybe he is. But just a side note on the Virgin thing, I heard something recently from Virgin Crew that now got the 737 Maxes coming and
That's
they
right.
are
Yeah,
operating them.
that's the 33 jets that are coming over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
They're all Maxes.
So the current ones they have are saving them 20% fuel on those sectors. And Boeing told them it was going to be about 10%. So apparently the bean counters are really happy at Virgin. And
With Maxes,
yeah, with the Maxes. So,
right?
that's just more planes coming. Obviously, cost money to have planes, but also saving money doing the
Yeah,
same sectors these days compared to just the 800s.
yeah.
And I also got told they need 300 pilots in the next 2 years. So that's a fair few pilots, man. That's,
It's quite
for
a few.
Australia, I think that's a lot of pilots. That's
Yeah.
Qantas. Isn't Qantas going for 300 this year or last year
Um,
when they were
Man,
advertising?
I've heard so many rumors about Qantas. I've heard, oh, they need 300 every year for the next 3 years. I
Yeah.
think there's just so
Yeah.
many moving parts. There's so many subsidiaries that play roles. Like you might have heard a figure of 300, but now they've got a bunch of A220s coming, which are supposed to be like the OG. regional short range jet at the moment.
Yeah,
So maybe
yeah,
they're going to divert some of their growth towards that fleet in Qantas,
yeah.
right?
I would say,
It's
so.
uh,
Yeah,
it's just yeah. I try not to look into rumors in the Australian market. All I do is I listen to jets. So like, who's buying how many jets? What
yeah,
planes need to be retired? And then do your
yeah,
own math from there.
yeah. So it's not looking good then.
Whoa, I wouldn't say that. Like, you got Virgin doubling in size, you got Bonza starting up, you got Rex flying 737s, you
Yeah,
got subsidiary growth at Qantas. The only thing that's not growing is mainline Qantas.
yeah. That's what I mean is the shrinking
Right.
7.3 fleet. And if you were A220 type rated, or where are they going to go? Q-Link, subsidiary, pilots get paid less, doing less probably
Mm-hmm.
work on us. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they're still going to
Well,
be doing
probably more work.
domestic,
Yeah.
probably more work. But I think that's the tricky thing about Australian aviation is there are so many different variables and gears going. It's all you might be wearing the same uniform, like Network, like QLink, but are you in the same airline? So, and that's the heartbreaker, right? We've been there, we've done that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it's the same story everywhere. Look at Atlas when I was on the 7.3, different company. It's the 7.3
Yeah.
fleet was no money, different route, like only domestic. So I think
Totally
when
different
someone's
airline.
someone's
Totally
selecting
different
an
airline.
airline, you just go for
Yeah.
the base and what type of flying you want. That's it.
Exactly.
And the money. If you want
Exactly.
money, go to Qantas. If you don't want money,
If you want
fly
money, go to
elsewhere.
America.
Well, yeah. If you have to stay in Australia, you'd pick the number one, right?
Yeah, sure.
Um,
Sure.
but if you go in international, I'd probably go America. Or I don't know about Emirates. I've heard things. I've only ever seen things. I know a couple of guys there, but
I think that's worth an entire podcast on its own. Like, is it
yeah,
worth going back to the Middle East and Asia post COVID?
yeah,
Because there's a lot of great things there, but there's also a lot of risk because look who got the boot first when COVID happened. Look
yeah,
at look at Japan, Hong Kong,
yeah.
UAE. The first people to be marching home were all the expats.
Yeah, it always is though,
So
man. That's the thing.
yeah,
That's what we realize, and that's what the risk you take. So you go in
yeah,
there to fly a certain jet, live a certain life, but that might all come tumbling down. And then the question comes back, and it's similar to the flight that I just had. The individuals had never left Australia. I had. Their peers had gone overseas, and now their captains all like firmly based in Australia, whereas I've been living internationally and it's like starting from the bottom again. So,
yeah,
but yeah, it's all based on a person's individual perspective, I guess. But yeah,
yeah.
apart from that, have you got any other news in aviation?
That's all, man. That's all I got for this week.
That's it. Yeah,
Yep.
I have nothing. Let's hit it and quit it.
He didn't quit it. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope you got something valuable out of this, and
Yeah.
we'll see you next time. All right.
Comment
Peace.
below, like and subscribe.
Do not like or subscribe just because you said
Comment
that.
on